Welcome back to Inside the Huddle. I'm your host, David Agono, cornerback for the Mountaineers in 2005. I am joined by Scott Jerko, linebacker, 2001 to 2004, Willie Edwards, DB cornerback supreme, 1985 through 1988, and the man in the middle, or on the outside, JT Thomas, linebacker, 94 to 95. So, we actually played Alabama this past Saturday. Brief recap of the game, 33-23, Alabama won. The first half was very, very, very competitive. It was almost, I would say, one of the most thrilling halves since a couple of our BCS games earlier in the 2000s. The second half, not so much. So let's jump into our recap and our review of the game. Let's talk about our offense. I mean, I for one was surprised. I didn't see that coming that first drive. Let's go.
Clint Trickett, he was my player of the game. We'll get into that later. But the presence on the field, Clint Trickett handled the offense, got everyone rallied, spot on with his passes. 365 yards thrown in the air with a bunch of drop passes.
Like I mentioned last week, we had to have sustained drives of more than 8 plays. And like you said, that first half, we did that. And we had Alabama on their heels, and we were running at a pace that I thought that they couldn't keep up with. You can look at them, and they looked like they were tired. And the second half, we didn't go at that pace again, and that kind of confused me why we stopped doing what was working for us. We rushed the ball well in the first half. Second half, we were negative 27 yards rushing. So if you can't run the ball, it's going to be tough to do anything else.
And Will, I thought you were right on when you said that last year, that it was all about sustainability. And I think starting off in that first quarter, we were really balanced. I thought we were pretty balanced with the run and the pass. Clint Trickett, my friend Clint Trickett, did an outstanding job of being a good leader on the field. He went out there and commanded the field when we initially started, marched down the field, had his guys in there, marched in one beat, and did an excellent job.
Another thing that offense did great, no turnovers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not one turnover against the number 2 team in the land, best rushing defense over the past 10 years.
And you know, and I really have the reason for that, because our team went in pretty confident in terms of that we're going to go out there and try to possess the ball. And they did a good job of it. I mean, initially going in, I thought they went in there knowing and feeling like, hey, we're going to go out here and give these guys our best shot.
Well, if we didn't turn the ball over, but we got in the red zone 3 or 4 times and came away with no points. To me, that's almost like a turnover. Yeah. You got to if you get in the red zone, you got to score points, especially against good teams like that. You can't give the ball up. A couple of times we got in there, our center snapped the ball over our quarterback's head, which, we got a field goal out of it. But at that point in the game, we needed to score points, and that could have put us within 6 points of Alabama at that point, but it didn't happen. So red zone efficiency, and I think Coach Hoganson talked about it last year, going into this year, that we have to be better at red zone efficiency, and we weren't this game.
Yeah, that actually brings up the elephant in the room. Drop passes.
Right.
Not only were they drive killers, but I mean, Clint's numbers could have been as atmospheric if he would have those balls caught. Kevin White had a great game. I thought he could probably got the ball a little bit more. Right. But going forward, these drop passes, is that just concentration? Is that the stage? What is that?
I would almost say it was concentration more than anything else. Because I thought once the guys initially started catching passes, then it seemed like in the middle of the game when we were scoring tap for tat that they really didn't have the concentration that they initially had. So I think it's something that's going to be able to be worked through. I think our guys are learn from that experience and go into this upcoming week knowing that they have to catch the ball.
Right. Well, when you're talking about dropping passes, more times than not, you're trying to do more than what you're really was supposed to do, because first of all, you got to catch the ball before you run. A lot of times, you're trying to look to where you're going to run before you catch the pass. And again, what you were saying, David, about Kevin White, I thought we should have got the ball more to him. He's a big physical receiver. And then one time we threw a fade route to Mario Alford, which I was like, okay, you got a 6'3" big kid on the other side. He's already proven he can go up and get the ball. So we got to take advantage of that kid and any mixed matches we get within these short defensive backs.
One area of concern with me when you're talking about drop passes was the fact that we became one-dimensional. We had a non-existent running game in the second half. Yes. There was cornerbacks, defensive backs, linebackers When you only got to defend one thing, receivers they're looking out.
Right.
They're saying, I don't want to get hit.
And I agree. And I thought early on, to watch Russell Shell get out there and come and be a force very, very early, and then not get the ball in the latter parts of the game. We got to be able to put the guys in the ball in a ball carrier's hand who wants to run the ball, and I think that's going to be critical for us going forward. We're really going to have to get the ball in the myriad of guys' hands, like my good friend Wendell Smallwood. I thought Wendell Smallwood, when he got the ball, when he did, that he showed some sparks.
Well, it looked like they didn't use him in the backfield as much. They used him as more of a slot
That's what I was
receiver, and he
gonna
showed
say.
he had pretty good hands as a slot receiver. So you're probably going to see a little bit more of that with Wendell Smallwood running from the slot instead of at the tailback, because we got some tailbacks that are pretty good. So, when you got good athletes, you want them all on the field. So I think that slot would be a good place to have Wendell Smallwood. And I think that's what they're going to do with him.
He didn't get the ball too much because of the time of possession. 38 minutes to 22 minutes. That's a whole quarter. That's a whole quarter you don't touch the ball in a game.
Right.
Well, it's like I mentioned last week, Alabama, they were going to grind us down. And, when I was researching them last year, they ran 50 to 60 plays per game. And, from what you were saying earlier, they had 82 plays.
Yeah.
For a team that just grinds you and pounds you, that's a lot of plays for your defense to be out on the field. And we have to get off the field on crucial downs, not trying to change gears and go to defense. But when offense can grind you out, but still have 82 plays, that's a lot of plays for a defensive football team.
That's a marathon of getting beat down, essentially. Which actually takes me to my last point on the offense. They're not going to get the credit. The O-line, to me, that's the player or the position group of the game. Anytime your quarterback throws for over 300 yards, and he has a time. I mean, let's be honest. Clint Trickett last year, he was running for his life, or just trying to throw the ball away so that he could survive to the next play. I didn't see that not one time this season or this past game. Obviously, the snap over his head from Orlovsky, and I think he was sacked once.
Right.
That's going to happen.
Right.
But whether it's Quentin Spain or those guys pulling, to me, it's like, you know what? It's Towson. Guess what? For this upcoming week, put Elijah Wellman in the fullback spot, and let's just rotate through our running backs, and let's see if we can build a rhythm running the ball. Because when you step into conference play, and then Maryland, which we'll talk about as far as is this Towson game a trap game, you got to be able to score, like Willie said, when you get inside the 20s. I didn't see that this past game, and I understand out of conference Alabama, big stage, but offensive line, to me, is the one player or players of the week by far.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I mean, just as you said about Alabama being the number 2 defense, and we go in there and we still sustain ourselves in regard to the offensive line. They did a great job. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay, no problem. Back to what David said, he gave the offensive line the player of the game. For me, I couldn't do that because we have to run the ball. Because if you're going to be effectively passing the ball, you got to make the defense, like Scotty said, you can't be one-dimensional. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin my ears back and I'm going to bring guys, and I'm going to make Clint Trickett be a ball player now. Because now if I can hand the ball for every once in a while and keep that defense on their heels, now we got them off balance, and that's what happened in the first half with Alabama, because we could run the ball and we did it well, and it also opened up the pass for us. So, I would. In my estimation, I wouldn't say the offensive line was the player of the game. Not,
You looking at my notes?
No, sir, I'm not.
Well, I mean, for me, it's at the end of the day, offensive
They
line,
kept us in the game.
they blocked.
Right.
They blocked the play that was called, and they did that the best that they could.
That was the one questionable call I had. We didn't run the ball one time on the goal line. If first and
Great
goal
points, yeah,
and
great
you don't
points.
score, if you don't even try to show your toughness, pushing the defense back on their heels.
That helps a football team. When you
Absolutely.
say, I'm on the goal line, all right, we're going to punch you right in the mouth.
Right.
And that could set the standard for that football team. If we could have done that against Alabama, get on the goal line, so we're going to line up, we're going to punch you in the mouth, what you going to do about it? And if we would have scored now, as a team, that's
Confidence.
That's confidence.
It's a momentum builder.
Yes.
Yeah, and that points to what I said last week at the end, belief. And that belief
Absolutely
starts up top. Okay, let's talk about WVU defense. WVU defense, I'm gonna give it to you guys. I mean, some good, some bad, some meh. Like what? How did they perform?
Starting off, I thought we had drastically improved, and I thought we were going to do better on the run support and being able to run through the alleys and make tackles. But later on in the game, it started. We got really exposed in terms of the secondary. Our youth, our depth, everything in my opinion just really got exposed, and it's going to really take that locker room and those players to start finding a way to bond together and pull that defense together.
Well, I don't think we got exposed. I think our inability to stop the run was crucial in helping the secondary out. Yeldon, 5.5 yards per carry. Henry, 6.6 yards per carry. We gave up 5.9 yards a rush.
Right.
2 plays, and that's a first down.
I would call that exposed guy.
Well, you said secondary. You didn't say.
But then at that point, if you can get that on first down, now in the secondary,
Right.
you're in a position where, all right, as a defensive coordinator, what do I call? Because at that point, they can run the ball again, or they can throw the ball. So, what do you call? So now,
You're hesitant on bringing guys from the corners or giving up the long play.
Right.
Yeah, it's no man's land because you want to bring pressure. I mean, I'm going to say my guy, Carl Joseph. I mean, he had 18 tackles. He was in a lot of plays. But that's good and bad in the sense that you don't necessarily, you want him making impact plays. You don't want him having, add-on tackles or tackles at the line of scrimmage per se. And when I think about it, the number one image that keeps popping up into my head is when they're sending, cornerback fires or guys off the edge and guys not breaking down on Blake Sims. And I mean, I'm not saying that Blake Sims didn't perform. I mean, he had, I think, over 250 yards throwing the ball, but he really just shuffled his feet, was an athlete, and got away from it. And that's something where I remember Mountaineer DBs of old or linebackers from old getting free. That was a sack, a deflected pass, or a fumble, or a turnover for a touchdown. So that's one thing that I think going forward that they can improve on drastically, breaking down fundamentals.
I agree. And I want to backtrack just a minute. Maybe using the word exposed might be a little over the hill, but because this is just the first game. Right, This is just the first game, and generally in the first game, you're getting your feet wet. You're trying to figure out who plays well together. Who's going to be the leader or the tiger on that football team, the person that's going. But being the first game, I guarantee you guys are going back in that locker room trying to figure out how to get it done, because that's going to be the key: getting it done. No matter who's back there, find a way to get the job done.
And you got to get off the field, like Willie said. On third downs, you got to get off the field. 7 of their 9. Third down conversions were through the air, and it goes back to getting 6-7 yards on the first 2 carries. If you only got to go 2 yards and you put 8 people in a box and they do a quick out, it's tough to stop 2 yards.
Right. One quick thing to add to, and you brought it up last week, Scott, and that was the special teams play. And David, you had an interesting stat in regard to the number of times that Alabama generally punts against a good team. If you would mention that stat.
Alabama punts 3 times a game. I mean, there's teams that punt 3 times a quarter. Alabama punts 3 times a game. They only punted twice this past game, but that's an efficient team. You can't make mistakes. And when I think about the defense, I think about third down is about fundamentals. So when I say breaking down, that means you're about to make a tackle, you give yourself a wide base and you square up to make a tackle. You don't just lean your shoulder in trying to, make contact with him, because Blake Sims outweighed all the DBs that he sidestepped last week by at least 10, 15 pounds.
Right. It's like you said, it's fundamentals, and we call that coming to balance. Once you get to a point where I'm ready to make the tackle, I'm going to break down, shuffle my feet. Our guys just came in there and just kept flying, and they got chopped a couple of times. And, there were several times that I was thinking, all right, we got him. And he stepped up, and our guys just went flying past him. And again, what we got to understand about defense is you have to do your job, because a lot of times I'm not going to make that tackle. If I pull him up and someone's coming from the backside to make that tackle, I've done my job. So you can't do more than what you're supposed to on a certain call. So I think I saw that a couple of times. The guys were trying to do a little too much, because if I pull him up and Scotty's coming from the backside and he pulls up and Scott hits him in the back of the head and he has the sack, I've done my job. To me, that's part of my sack, because I've done what I was supposed to do, because I didn't try to make the sack myself. And now I'm out of a position and he's coming up through a gap. So, and like Scotty said last week, it's all about gap control, especially when you're playing a 3-3. And when we're getting on defense now, I didn't think our nose guards commanded a double team, because when you play a 3-3, and I've mentioned it several times, I watched their nose guard block I watched their center block our nose guard one-on-one, which allows those guards to get to our linebackers. That's how you can get 5.9 yards a carry.
That's part of it, yeah.
So if our nose guard can't be, a good player like I said before, Chris Neal, who you had to double team him. Teams came in, they game plan to have to double team him. So now your linebackers can run free and make plays. And I didn't see that happen a whole lot. So I think our nose guards have to be better. And I didn't see a pass rush at any point from our defensive ends. It always came from either our spur or our bandit, or us blitzing a defensive back. We got to get some more pressure on the quarterbacks from our defensive ends.
Yeah, the 7 of 9 third down conversions through the air. Not one sack, not one QB hurry, or one pass breakup.
When we talk about 3-3-5 stack, when we talk about linebackers and front seven, it's all about numbers. When I think we're going to start talking about special teams, which I think was, thank God for Mario Alford, you know what I'm saying? The thing about when he hit the outside on that kickoff return, I don't know if it's instinctual or he saw it, but he knew for a fact that they didn't have enough numbers on the side that he ran to. And him with his speed allowed it to just be game over. There was nobody in a crimson jersey that was going to be able to touch him until after he scored. So on defense, to go back to defense really briefly, on defense, when we're talking about pressure, when we're talking about coverages, you're trying to outnumber the offense's numbers in a specific zone or position group. And that's why we need, I almost said Neal, that's why we need Kyle Rose, that's why we need, I think Hyman and the guys did okay, but we need them to almost beast up. I don't know if that's a word, but we need them to take on more guys. But let's talk about special teams now. I think Lambert did okay. I mean, he missed, I think, one field goal.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, that one field goal, it wasn't make or break, but it would have been nice, for him to make that, obviously. But without glossing over Mario Alford, I mean, I wanted him to take that second kickoff because he was hot. You don't get 100 kickoff returns and calls. I thought he should have taken it. What do you guys think? I mean, relatively speaking.
Well, you start thinking about management of the game then. You know what I mean? In my mind, I start thinking about, I'm not sure if I want him to come out there and something wrong happens. It's all good until it goes wrong. But, obviously he seemed like he was starting to have a hot hand in a hot game, and maybe he could have potentially done a little bit more than the average 20 yards we get out of that.
Yeah, but even on the kickoff return he had for 100 yards, when he started running and he stopped and stutter step, and the guy from Alabama was right in front of him, I jumped up and was like, no, you can't stop your feet. Because, Alabama is great athletes and they have a great special team. And once he made that one guy miss, who was the gunner, he just, made that one, put his foot in the ground, and he was gone.
We try to get hat on a hat and you make one guy miss. If everyone has a hat on a hat and you can juke the one guy, should be good to go.
He made the one guy miss.
Now, he got a little help. I don't know if you guys see, but Rochelle put a hat on a hat.
Yes, he did.
And he probably had a big hit for that because he cleared the way. He literally cleared the way, and Mario Alford was able to score off of the big assist by Rochelle Shell.
You talk about special teams, you start talking about the field position.
Right.
And we had a great field position, I think. In general, overall, Nick O'Toole 4 punts, 43-yard average. I mean that's fairly decent.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I know the one thing that I noticed, and I talked about it last week, having the field being flipped on us, and giving Alabama a short field. And then one time, I think it's Thompson, he caught the ball inside the 5-yard line. And one of the things when you first learn to play football, they tell you put your heels on the 10-yard line. And if he goes over your head, let it go.
Well,
never catch the ball inside the 10.
He started off on the 20, and it was just such a good kick. He got carried back and lost track of where he was.
Exactly. So at that point, let it go.
Yep.
Because it could have bounced in the end zone. Now you started on the 20 instead of on your 5. And at that point, Alabama had made some adjustments Because we were running the ball in the first half, and that's what good teams do. They make adjustments at the half. So now, as a coaching staff, they're gonna say, how good are you as a coaching staff? How can you adjust on the fly?
Okay. Alabama game is done and dusted. One talking point each going into Towson. What is one takeaway? We'll start with you, Willie.
I think, again, defense. I think we have to get off the field on crucial downs. We can't have sustained drives. We can't let offenses just grind us out. And, Alabama was a different style of play that we're going to typically see in the Big 12. We're going to see more spread. We're not going to see, two tights and two splits and, 6'4", 240-pound running backs coming at you. They had a 1-2 punch. They had a speed guy, and then they had a power guy. We're not going to see a whole lot of that. So I think, again, we're going to have to get some pressure on the quarterback, take some of that pressure off the third level, which is our defensive backs.
My impression or talking point of the game is focus on getting back to the basics. It's like you said, you got to get back to tackling. You got to get your proper form. It's all about fixing the fundamentals of the game and commanding your body to do what you needed to tell it.
My one talking point is tempo, red zone, special team, and tackling. Because those four things, in my opinion, is the one thing. I thought it was one. It's the one thing. Those four things are the one thing I think is it's going to be important for us to focus in on. I just we talked a lot about some of the mishaps or miscues, but I saw a whole bunch of potential in this team. Yeah. I'm excited about it, to be honest with you. For them to come in and play like they played against Alabama, I know West Virginia fans are absolutely proud. We're really talking about not having more victories, but I tell you, those guys got to have their head up high because they went out there and faced the beast. I mean, they went out there and made it happen in terms of standing toe-to-toe with a team that the nation says is ranked number 2 in the nation right now.
26-point favorites.
Exactly, but that's a West Virginia team. That's what we do, Dave.
Yeah, that's what we always do. For me, belief. I'm going to keep saying that until I see it on the field from the coaching staff, from the players. It'll get there. Now, next game is against Towson. They lost last week against Central Connecticut State. They have a pretty good running back. I don't know what that means. They're at FCS. They have a pretty mobile quarterback. That's a division lower than the level that the Mountaineers play on. Let's be honest. What is this game about? Is this a trap game? Is this a preparation game? Or is this the next game? Is it just the next game?
This is a preparation game and getting back to fundamentals, I think. This is a game that is a roster filler, getting a lot of people experience into the games. What I'm trying to say is you try to get as many people game time experience as you can.
And you said that, and my one thing is, I was thinking about William Crest. They said they're not going to redshirt this guy.
Yeah.
At one point in the Alabama game, he was warming up on the sidelines, and I'm thinking, all right, are they going to give us a change-up instead of having Clint Trickett sitting in the pocket? Now you got a guy who's big and physical and can run the ball. Are we going to show him some option? Are we going to show him some inside zone and let him read the backside in and take the ball back out the backside? So I'm looking forward to maybe possibly seeing William Crest get some rest because you have 2 games before you can actually redshirt this kid. So it'd be interesting to see if we get a big lead and they put him in the game. But also this game is key for the coaches to keep these kids focused. Because, you came off all that energy channeled into playing Alabama. Now that's over when we lost. Can the coaches get those kids, their focus back up to a point where they're not just looking at it as just Townsend? Because you gotta go into every game as if this team can beat you. And the coaches can't let the kids, think that, all right, this is just another game, we should walk over them. They got to keep them focused.
I'm going to channel my inner Don Neal. This team was 13-1 last year, ranked number 19 this week in the coaches poll. We're going to have to take this team seriously. They're on 1 right now. They want to come up here and be spoilers here in Morgantown. We cannot sleep on them. And I guarantee you the coaches are preaching the same message. It is so important that we focus in on this team and try to get as many opportunities to be successful in that football field this upcoming week.
We don't want an Appalachian State, Michigan.
Absolutely.
The most important game on your schedule is the next game you're playing.
Okay. So I agree with all that. in the back of my mind, though, I'm like, that game in Maryland is kind of a big deal.
Right.
What are some things that need to be shown against Towson that we can forecast, project, hopefully in a positive way against Maryland?
The only thing I think that needs to be projected during the Towson game is energy. You don't want to show too many people what your offense can and can't do this early in the game, especially against a caliber team that we should beat. Just go out there and say it, we should beat Towson. But you want to show as little as possible and not give up any hints or give them a tail on what plays you might run.
Well, like I said before, you got to go into this game, saying, all right, this team could beat us. You can't have a letdown because of, like I said, all that energy and all that focus was honed in for months and months now for Alabama. So now we got to change gears, and we got to get ready for Townsend, and we got to get ready for them like they are another Alabama on our schedule. Because again, you got to stay focused because, like you said, it could be a trap game, and it happens all the time. You see it in any sport that you go out and you say, all right, well, this team should beat this team, and they end up losing because if they listening to what people are saying, they're reading the headlines, reading the newspaper, and what their friends are telling them. Oh, you guys are going to kill them, blah blah blah. Just show when it's going to happen. You could be in trouble.
Hey, for me, it's a home game. That's going to be one of the big deals of the weekend. Mountaineer fans want to see our young Mountaineers get out there and play good football, and I encourage all Mountaineer fans to come out for this one. When you look at teams like this, most of the time you get people wondering, should I go to the game? Absolutely you should, because these guys, just as Scott just mentioned, feed off of energy. The energy of that stadium, the energy of our fans are second to none. We need you there. We need you out there supporting these young guys because as we tread this season, as I mentioned, going to Alabama, we need that 12th man, and our fans are going to be the 12th man for it.
If you can get the crowd rocking like LSU a couple years ago, every game, it is a motivational booster when you're on the field.
Right.
Talk about it a little bit, Scott. Talk about, and fans probably hear us mentioning the experience, but coming out of that tunnel and that energy that you feel, doesn't matter who we're playing, boy, you get that feeling and inspiration of wanting to do your very best job that you possibly can.
Yep. I'll expand on that. It's a night game. Night game in Morgantown. The fans should be getting plenty tuned up and ready to cheer on the Mountaineers. But the moment you step foot on Mountaineer Field, when you come out of that tunnel and the mist or smoke is coming out and 65,000 people are cheering, it gets loud. It gets loud. And any advantage you can get, especially on defense, if the offense can't hear plays or signal calling or whatever, any advantage you can get is helpful.
Right, and for myself, same thing, coming out of that tunnel, it's amazing and it's electrifying, but the one thing that always was in my mind was that, I play for the state of West Virginia. We are the team of the state. We don't have, Pitt has the Steelers and they have, the Pirates, and you have all these other things going on. In this state, it's West Virginia football, and with that in your mind, you go out, you want to play your very best in front of them because, you're playing for them. And that's one thing I think what I noticed over the last year or two, and, with my son playing for WVU, I went on a recruit trip and they showed things that talked about the state, about the coal miners, the man trip, and things like that. And so they're trying to get these guys to understand what football means to the state. And I know what it means because when I go to work on a Monday, everybody wants to know, well, what'd you think about it? What's going to happen? You think about this, and it means something to them.
And not only that, the eye in the sky don't lie. Right. That's what they tell you. Game film, watching game film. You don't want to be that guy that was slacking back on the play. Or you don't want to be that guy that gets a big hit because you're going to hear it from teammates, coaches, family, co-workers.
It was funny. I still
whatever.
get people, making comments about plays that I made. And this was back in the 80s when they had VHS and Beta. And so they remember that stuff. Or I remember that one play when you did this, and I'm thinking, how'd you remember that? Because, again, like I said, it matters to these people in this state.
Yeah. It's the next game, so it's the best game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, last talking point, player of the week, and why? I'll start it off this time. Switch it up on you guys. I'll start it off. For me, Quentin Spain, offensive line. At the end of the day, they can only do what they're told to do, and they blocked. And Clint Trickett threw for over 300 yards. Kevin White had a great day. First half, first drive, we ran the ball well. I want to see that again. Towson, maybe not so much, but prepping for Maryland.
Clinton Trickett's my go-to guy. 2 weeks in a row here. He's who I said needed to show up, and he did. 29 of 45 with 6-7 drop passes. Could have easily went over 400 yards. 400 yards in a college football game. It's something against Alabama.
And they don't give
He
up
had
very
365. Game control and presence leading the offense. And it could have had 2 touchdowns had we not had dropped on the goal line.
Right. And I agree with you in your pick. That's your pick. My pick is Carl Joseph. And now that we talked about him earlier, you got a guy who we switched into a different position. So some of his tackles were made downfield, but just think if he wouldn't have made those tackles, it could have been, 40, 50 points. Mm-hmm. He made some tackles that were, open field tackles, and I think they did a great job of moving him to a position that's closer to a line, as physical as the player as he is. 18 tackles against anybody. That's a great day.
Yeah, it's a great day.
My guy's Kevin White, because I think although he didn't get all the balls, he was catching passes that made the point that, coach, give me the ball. Give me the ball. He's the guy that wants the ball. I think if we get him the ball, I think we'll find ourselves on the better end of a lot of these games. Kevin White's my guy.
All right. So this weekend again, Towson, join us. Thank you for joining us on Inside the Huddle, and check on thedepost.com, the football section, for more updates.